While the SACP is calling on government to urgently deal with the reality of climate change, it comes in the wake of the devastating floods in KwaZulu-Natal. The party also says issues of poor infrastructure must be addressed. For more on this, we're joined now by Solly Mapailla, who is the party's first Deputy General Secretary. Solly, thank you so much for your time this morning. I mean, it is a front-page story. I believe it is even the Sunday Independent that is speaking about how perhaps even government was caught sleeping this time around because of the lack of infrastructure, which could have subsequently resulted in the devastation that we've seen in the KZN.
Yeah, thank you very much and good morning. And firstly, let's start by sending our condolences to the families who lost their loved ones in KZN. Of course, to commend the NGOs and several foundations and government officials that responded effectively towards communities, as well as our members who have been part of communities to do the mop-up and to restore normality in those affected communities. Yes, climate change is a big problem. Climate change, essentially, at the moment, there is a natural climate change, but there is a rapid climate change that is taking place across the world because of the capitalist system of production that destroys the environment. It doesn't care about natural habitat and the well-being of people on Earth. And I think the richest people are creating a hype that the rich will go and live somewhere else, and we only have one Earth to live on. And I think society needs to create this sense of consciousness about how to respond to this destruction of climate change by the bourgeoisie, who only see the economy and the natural habitat basically as a system to feed themselves on and not look at the sustainability of life on Earth.
Yeah. Solly, how would you say government has been responding to climate change as well as the growing contention around global warming?
Well, I mean, firstly, let's talk to the government response to this disaster. I think, firstly, it has been less than impressive, and I think government can do better in this regard. But it's precisely because government has auctioned off the economy to the private people, the capitalists, who have no respect for the well-being of others. And every other crisis, they have to procure services. Government needs to build basic capacity to respond to such kind of things in communities, and there will be many of these things going forward, given that we are living now in the age of pandemics caused by this destructive nature of the capitalist system of production. So it hasn't been really impressive. Nonetheless, we thank government for the areas where they've responded, but we think they surely could do better. I think it was quite disjointed, unsatisfactory, and too weak. That after several days, in fact, we have seen some of the NGOs doing better than government response on this. But generally on climate change, it has been too slow. And I think it has only focused on auctioning of the economy of the country on the whims of what Europe seeks to do, rather than literally focusing on the needs of our people and mitigate climate change in that concept, particularly through what we call just transition.
Yeah. Help us here. Are you also concerned about the 1 billion rand that has now been allocated for the relief of those that have been left destitute as a result of the floods in KwaZulu-Natal? Is there concern amongst the SACP about how the money will be used and whether the money will actually get to the intended purpose?
Yes, firstly, we think it might not even be enough if you look at the extent of damage that we have seen. Even when you look into the pictures behind you, you realize that the damage is too big, and I think 1 billion may not be enough. Obviously, in our statement that we issued, we have warned against the possibility for this money again to be scavenged by tenderpreneurs, corrupt elements who live on disasters and never look on how to service the people. So we really believe that having learned lessons about the recent corruptions activities that actually started in KZN, and we warned about it when there was procurement of heavy blankets, several blankets, hundreds of them for a small community at that time with COVID-19. And we went about this from our province, who alerted us in KZN. We don't want that to happen again. I think we think all measures should be in place to make sure that such events do not occur again.
Yeah, and Solly, to avoid a situation where we are lamenting about how funds were misused again, in terms of just being proactive, I mean, you guys are part of the tripartite alliance of the ANC-led government. So it is the governing party, the African National Congress, where you are an alliance partner with them. As the SACP, how do you keep your alliance partner accountable to the needs of the people instead of potential stealing by some of those officials that you're speaking about?
Well, the ANC doesn't steal, and I think society needs to appreciate this point, whether they like it or not. The ANC doesn't steal. It is the people sometimes that are in the ANC that steals, and the ANC, the issue we're making is to continue to take a stronger action against those who steal in its colors, including those that it has deployed in government. If they steal for their individual self, not much for the ANC. So action needs to be taken. We continue to raise these questions with them, including in this whole issue regarding procurement in COVID-19. We want them very, very early. But individuals always go out of their way working with these unscrupulous business people, those who are in government, whether they belong to the ANC or not. They continue to do wrong things. And I think that until this time government shows drastic action taken against those who are culprits, those who are stealing from the masses, this will continue. But once community also begin to reject this and not see even the example that is set by those who are in the procurement line in government, who live lavish lifestyles, and the young people aspire only to live that lavish lifestyle instead of living ordinary sustainable livelihoods for themselves and for their families. So we'll continue to have this problem, but we urge on government to make sure that all is done to avoid corruption again, particularly in this kind of intervention and many
just
other
to interject there, Solly, because you made a very important point. I'm running out of time. Beyond just urging government, can there be something that you guys can do as this SACP with your influence to ensure that there's some kind of monitoring and evaluation, or at least accountability keeping, so we don't find ourselves in a situation where, as per the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us, where we take advantage of people's vulnerabilities?
Yes, we do all the time as an organization. We actually, as you know, have launched several campaigns against corruption and participated in mass mobilization against corruption. But finally, it is the processes in government, including through opening cases for those who are corrupt to be dealt with by the criminal justice system, that will actually have to come at play. We can do as much mobilization as possible, but as long as those that are in government who must execute our concerns are doing nothing, then things will stay the same, and we hope this time it will not be.
Yeah, we'll leave it there for now. Solly Mapailla, the first SACP Deputy General Secretary.